Getting better at TFT means you have to improve many parts of your gameplay, so I thought it'd be a great idea to give you tips to improve in every single category. These tips are anything from a simple trick, to a feature you didn't know about, to advanced advice. All of these tips are useful regardless of your rank, so there is something here for everybody. Giant Slayer is a great item to counter high health units, but this item gives bonus damage for every damage type, which includes AD, AP, as well as true damage. That makes this item great to put on any carry, regardless of their damage source. It is also great to put on AP carries like Lux and Victor if you get dropped a ton of bows, as there are barely any good items for AP carries that are made with a recurve bow. Putting components on units during the early and mid game is a great way to get a little bit stronger, but you have to be careful when doing so. You need to make sure that the unit you're putting a component on will either be sold at some point, or you know you can make a useful item out of the component. Here I messed up and I'm stuck with a chain vest on my 3-star Singed, and that is not a situation you want to be in. The Pandora's Items Augment lets you reroll your components and full items on your bench every single turn. This is really useful as you get a better chance to hit perfect items. But if there are items or components you want to keep, just buy a random unit and place it on them. Here you can see that my cloak is not being rerolled as it's on a Lysandra. Thives Gloves gives 15% dodge chance naturally. This makes it a better item to put on tanky units as they get way more effective HP. In addition, tanky units can get value out of more generic items, while carries need more specific items to do well, so that's another reason to put TG on your tankier units. To quickly scout everybody, scout with your hotkeys. They are the 1 and 3 key by default. This lets you quickly scout for threats like Blitzcrank to see if you can put your carries in the corner or not. If you see Blitzcranks in the lobby, make sure to leave an unimportant unit in the corner, as Blitzcrank will pull that in instead of your carry. Even better if you make the Blitzcrank pick up a big tank. Getting a big tank into your enemy backline can let you CC their carry and make Blitzcrank work against them. A great item to put on Blitzcrank is Zephyr. If people are leaving tanks or unimportant units in the corner, simply Zephyr it. Now the farthest away unit that you can pick up is the carry, and we will be able to pull it into our team to take it out. Another Blitzcrank tip is you can hook units that are in the cubbies. As we can see here, if we put Blitzcrank front row left side, he pulls in the Jhin. And same story on the other side, but if the enemy puts the Camille all the way in the back corner here, the Jhin is safe. The Level Up Augment gives you 3 additional XP every time you buy 4 XP. This gives you 7 XP every time for 4 gold, but the augment lets you know how much gold you need to spend on XP to level up. You can also pre-level by missing 2 XP towards the next level. Since we get 2 XP every turn, you naturally level up the next turn. This is really useful on stage 1-4, where you can get access to 3 cost units already on stage 2-1, as well as on 2-3, where you can get access to 4 cost units on 2-5. Struggling against assassins, one way to counter them is to put GA on your main carry, then leave your carry in the backline alone. After Shaco kills Jhin, he will walk to the front line, and Jhin will be safe as long as your tanks are still alive. Another tip to counter assassins is to box up. Here Shaco can't land on the Jhin, and there are other units blocking the adjacent hexes. But be a bit careful with this, as now your team is really vulnerable to AoE damage from Lux and Ziggs, for example. Even though there are 7 opponents in TFT, you can actually know who you will play against next turn. The algorithm that decides who you fight is quite complicated, but there are ways of getting around that. With today's sponsor, the Meta TFT app, it will tell you in-game who you will play against. And as you can see here, the numbers are faded on the people who I can't fight next turn, and therefore I only need to position for the 3 other people. This is a game changer, as it makes it a lot easier to position specifically for other people. Not only this, but you can also look at what the other people in the lobby like to play, as well as some other stuff. Here I can see that everyone but 1 player is flexible with the comps they like to play. You can also see if people are on the hot or cold streak, if they are a 1 trick, a 2 trick, or if it's their first game of the day. In addition, you can click on the players to see their match history. This is fantastic for quickly figuring out which comps will be contested in this lobby, and then you can plan out and find direction even earlier in the game. The Meta TFT app also has data showing you what the best comps are on any given patch. And here you can see what the best comps are for the current patch right now as this is recorded. You can also add filters to this, such as the date range, which server, as well as which ranks it should include. These are just some of the many features on the app, and I've been using Meta TFT since Set 3, and if you want to download this app yourself, please click on the referral link down in the description or in the pinned comment. Gunblade heals you and one other ally. This means that you can actually heal up the rest of your team by having a very strong carry with this item. Gunblade also heals off of both AP and true damage. A great tip for getting damage on your carry is to run IE and Jeweled Gauntlet. This makes sure that your spell will always crit, and it will be a consistent source of damage. Frozen Heart is a great item to put on assassins. Since they jump to the backline, you can very easily force them to land on the enemy carry to slow their attack speed. Shroud and Zephyr are very powerful late game items. You can actually pick up units, then scout with your hotkeys. Now you can see where the enemy has put their carries. Right before the round starts, press the back to your own board hotkey and place down the unit to either Zephyr or Shroud the enemy. Speaking of hotkeys, they are very useful, and the most powerful one is the second movement bind. If you bind this to another key, you can spam these two keys at the same time to have a better chance of getting the item you want on the first carousel. It's also very important to plan ahead before entering stage 2, 3, and 4 carousel. Make sure you have an item priority. If you don't get your BF sword, it's no big deal as you already know what other components you can take instead. The worst thing to do is to stand in the middle while the rest of the items just get taken around you. You can sometimes make 10 gold super early on stage 1 if you get a large gold opener. To make sure that we can sell, play one of these units to solo stage 1-3 and 1-4. Another tip for stage 1 is to play units that you want to keep. If you have 2 TFs and a Poppy, play the 2 TFs on your board. This is to make sure that you can buy the units you want from the shop, and sometimes we need to sell that Poppy in order to buy everything we need. And we can't do that if she is on our board, so therefore, play units you want to keep. Sunfire Cape is the best item to make in the early game. Since fights are very long, we get a ton of value from all the damage this item provides over time. For the same reasons, it's not that great late game, as the fights here are a lot quicker. Gargoyle Stoneplate gives more stats the more units are targeting the champion wearing it. Therefore, the less frontline you have, the better this item is. But if you have many frontline units, this item gets less value, as the enemy units will be targeting many different champions. Aura items are items that buff multiple units. These are Seek's Herald, Chalice, Locket, and Banshee's Claw. Although getting max value from these are great, positioning is more important. There is no need to buff more units than you need if it makes your positioning worse. Just make sure to buff your main carry with them. Hand of Justice is a great item for champions that have different damage outputs. This is because the item gives both AP and AD, and also gives percentage healing off of all damage. A champion like Fiora really likes this, as she deals both AD and true damage, and therefore can heal off of both of those sources. The Reforger is great to remove bad components and turn them into potential good ones. Use it if you get a lot of the same components, or if you get a component that is completely useless. The Loaded Dice is great for hitting 3 stars or 2 stars. If you use it on a champion, you get a free shop where you only see the champion's own synergies. There is a lot of math behind calculating which unit is the best, but the Meta TFT app once again has you covered. If you search for Shaco, and you are at level 7 for example, you can see what the best odds are of finding as many Shacos as possible in your shop. Magnetic Remover lets you slam more items without worrying if you need the champion late game. Say you're playing Shaco carry and you've made IE and BT on him. If you are still waiting on the second boat to make RFC, you can put another item on him like Frozen Heart. Once you get RFC, use the remover to take off all the items, then put BT, IE, and RFC on him, and the Frozen Heart on somebody else. Another great use of Magnetic Remover is to save it for stage 5 or 6 carousel. If you have 3 decent items on your carry, but a great one shows up on the carousel, take that item and use Magnetic Remover to put the new one on your carry instead of the old one. The target dummy is great to manipulate positioning. You can either use it for more frontline, or you can use it to bait out farthest away spells like Blitzcrank or Lux. Since they will never move, you know that they will be a reliable source of bait until they die. Neeko's help has multiple uses. You can use it to finish off a pair so you can be stable and stop rolling. You can Neeko a 3-cost unit in the early game to hit interest gold quicker. This seems like a waste, but when the gold is scarce, getting more gold quickly is amazing. The last best usage is to use it to Neeko off 5-cost pairs to make them 2 stars. Some of the best carries in the entire game are 2-star 5-costs like Jinx and Kai'Sa, and they can likely carry you to a first place. Even though winning games is fun, it's not optimal to always play for a first place. If you have an unlucky game, turning something that would have been an 8th place into a 6th place saves you around 20 to 30 LP, which is really important for climbing in the long term. Similarly, securing top 4s is just as important as winning when you want to climb. Dragon's Claw actually counters true damage. It doesn't block any of it, but the damage part of the item works against it. This is great against, for example, Kai'Sa, as she does a lot of instances of true damage and will therefore be hit multiple times by the Dragon's Claw. If you are on a loss streak in the early game, killing as many units as possible to save HP is important. A way to do this is to line everyone up so they will focus the same unit. Here all my 3 units will target the Camille, and therefore I will have a higher chance to save HP. You can actually see what's inside your Mercenary Chest. As you can see here, these players have gold inside of their Mercenary Chests that they will get once they win. What stats Tham Kench gets from feeding units depends on which units you feed him, and what the star level of those units are. Pause the video to see the full table. What Yordle spawns is not actually random. As you can see, we have a really high chance of seeing 1 cost units, so keep this in mind when running this as an economy trait. If you are unsure about which units are strong, which do the most damage, or which do a lot of tanking, make sure to extend the damage graph to see which units do the most. In addition, you can select to see who's tanking a lot and who is healing a lot. The strength of the augments you get depends every game, but it's not completely random. Here's a full table of the odds. In addition, all players get the same quality, so if you get a silver augment, all the other players get a silver augment as well. The final tip is to subscribe to the channel if you found this video helpful. There's a ton of content on this channel if you want to get better at TFT. While you're down there, make sure to like the video as well, and make sure to use my referral link to download the Meta TFT app. Thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next video.